Have you ever wondered how to play a rogue, or better yet, how to role play a rogue? Do you remember your first time playing Dungeons & Dragons? Have you ever been handed a pre-rolled character? Well, I've got a guest with me today, Wyatt, and his very first time playing, he was handed a pre-rolled character who was a rogue, and he did a great job actually developing a backstory and a full character concept for this character. We'll get into all that on this episode of The Art of Character. I'm Chris. Welcome to the Art of Character podcast, where we get into all things Dungeons & Dragons, focusing on the heart of the matter, the characters. Let's roll. So in today's episode, I've got a guest with me, Wyatt. He's been with me a couple times before, but in this episode, we're going to talk about his very first time playing, where he was handed a pre-rolled character, a rogue. He actually developed a full character concept for this character over time and did a great job playing him and role-playing him. So, welcome, Wyatt.
Pleasure to be here, Chris.
All right. Well, thank you for coming back. So, Wyatt, it was your very first time playing Dungeons & Dragons. You were handed a pre-rolled character called Belric the Penniless Rogue. He was a halfling. So, what do you remember about this? Your very first time playing, and you were handed a pre-rolled character.
Well, it was not conventional Dungeons & Dragons by any means because it was over COVID, so we were playing over Zoom and using Fantasy Grounds to actually play the game, so that was a learning curve in itself. But when I looked at the party that we had, I saw, okay, well, we have no rogue, so I'm going to pick the rogue guy. And I really didn't have much for him at the time, Belric, because I really wasn't expecting him to live long, and he lived for, well, he hasn't died yet, so 5 years.
Yeah, Belric's lived through several campaigns. I'm going to say a good 4 or 5 full campaigns, and has actually been one of the harder characters to kill. And he just continues to live on.
He's been in plenty of precarious situations, and I will say his survivability doesn't come from his armor class at all. It comes from his dexterity and suite of skills and attributes.
All right. Let's talk about being handed a pre-rolled character. So you developed a character concept for him actually pretty quickly. Do you remember what you did or what you thought about?
Well, so when I pictured Belric, right, so the party met him on this country road kind of through a forest, middle of nowhere. So I pictured this young kid running away from home, getting in trouble on the family farm, really tired of the country life and wanting more for himself. And maybe he had gotten in trouble for some criminal activities and was running away from home. And he decided, well, it's time for some adventure. So I imagined kind of this, I don't know, but like a Victorian urchin,
all right,
kind of like a Victorian urchin, preteen, teen kind of. So Belric was born, and so he's incredibly greedy, incredibly crafty. He does have a good heart. He's loyal to his friends, but he's always about the con, the scam, money. He lives on pure luck and adrenaline.
So Belric came from a poor background, right?
Oh, yes, dirt poor. Family farm. It's probably a cabbage farm, something depressing like that. In my mind, too, Belric he's stealing, of course, for himself, so he can have the wealth that he's always dreamed of, but he's also trying to lift his family out of poverty, maybe trying to show up a relative and say, well, you want me to spend my life rolling in the mud with the cabbages? Well, how about I bring you all out of the mud with me, huh? I'll show you all. So he almost sends like an envelope of gold and stolen jewels, kind of as like a F.U. to his uncle.
Right.
Right.
I remember a little bit later in the campaign, actually, as Belric started to accumulate a little bit of money from some of the conquests of the party, that he had one thing, and this is a little bit later, but he had one thing that he really wanted to get. Do you remember what that was? It was a vehicle.
Oh, he wanted a gilded chariot with spinning rims.
Right. So basically, a gold chariot with spinners. I mean,
he wanted
more or less
a pimp chariot,
a pimped out chariot. Right.
Right.
So anyway,
with mead dispensers, chilled mead dispensers.
Right. Only the finest for Belric the Penniless.
He saw the gilded chariot roll by through his town once with the spinning rims, the mead dispenser, the bard on the roof blasting the latest hits. Yeah, it was the tax collector's chariot, actually. And ever since then, he knew that was the high life. That is how Belric knew he would make it, when that was his chariot.
That absolutely makes sense now. Yeah, so any other elements about Belric's backstory? We know you didn't develop this right away, kind of up front, but, what kind of developed over time in your mind about who this guy was?
Well, of course, he's a thief at heart, just always aspired for something greater. I didn't want him to have a tragic backstory. It's kind of like a trope, everybody, if they have a hero, they're like, yeah, my parents died, so I'm on this quest of vengeance, or I'm here to do things right for their memory so their souls can rest easily. Essentially, I wanted him to have kind of a normal upbringing. Not everybody had the most tragic upbringing.
Well,
right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't want to be cliche.
There you go. Okay. So would you say that Belric was well loved at home?
I will say he was not raised by his parents. His parents were not great people, but he was well loved by his aunt. His uncle was kind of a drunk, kind of a hard ass, Oi, Belric, stop playing dice at the tavern and get down here and pick the weevils off the cabbage. Like he loved his uncle, but he really. No, he was a hard ass, always harping on the weevils.
And then, so what about developing Belric's persona? So he's a rogue, he's a halfling. You develop this great voice and kind of persona and attitude. So tell us a little bit about where that came from and kind of what your idea was for that.
So Belric, right, since his dexterity is extremely high and all of his other thieving attributes, I rolled pretty well with Belric most of the time. At least when I was trying to sneak or stab or steal. Belric, of course, is very cocky, right? Lot of good scams. He's got a lot of jingle in his pocket, Belric's been up to no good when he's jingling.
Right.
So he's really cocky. He's sure about what he's doing, but he's also he's not brave. Right? He really wants to make it to retirement, so to say. He's not in it for the glory. He's in it for the gold, but the only way to get with the gold is to get out alive. So he's always trying to say, all right, guys, but how do we get out of here? Do we have to fight that? Because I think that thing wants to separate me from my pockets. He wants to, you can't bring this shit with you in the afterlife, so I want to take it with me in the life. Always self-preservation, dodging. He will do whatever it takes to get out of there. So when push comes to shove, he will do some cool maneuvers.
When you were developing the persona for Belric, where did the voice come from? What was the inspiration for the voice?
Well, I was thinking kind of like Oliver Twist. What was like a hustler in D&D, right? And so I thought of like the street kids or just like Peaky Blinders.
So it's a bit of an English-esque accent.
English street thug kind of accent.
A bit of a Cockney accent. Yeah. We're not saying that it was the best accent. If you're from the UK or, if you're from anywhere over there, we are not claiming that this is a good accent by any means. But it was great at our table. So how would Belric introduce himself to someone? What would that voice be like?
Oi, my name's Belric the Penniless. What's it to you?
Right.
Who wants to know?
Right. So let's do a little party interaction just to get a little role play, a little bit more of Belric's voice. So there was this paladin in the party, and he was kind of a typical bro paladin, right? So anyway, paladin would be like, "Hey, Belric, what are you up to over there? You're not stealing anything, are you?"
Well, I'm not doing anything. I'm just investigating the scene for evidence. Yes, evidence collection, so we know what this cult is up to, right?
Don't get any sticky fingers. I'm keeping an eye on you.
Oh, my hands are always clean. You know me, my friend.
Right.
Now, what's that over there? Yeah, you see that? See that? Yeah, yeah, that strange thing over there. Yeah, oh.
We'll do a couple more just to kind of get Belric's voice a little bit. Let's do Belric role-playing with a shopkeep. So, anyway, ding, ding. Belric walks through the door. Shopkeep's like, how you doing there, young little fella? How can I help you? what'll it be? We'll say it's like a general mercantile. They have a few weapons and items like that. But yeah, what'll it be there, little fella? What can I do for you?
Oi, I'm here for your finest stabbies.
Stabbies.
Stabbies, yes. Sharpies, stabbies, and the like.
All right.
You know, blood removal devices.
Thunk, thunk, thunk. All right. He rolls back he's got a small little tarp on top of a cabinet, and he rolls it back. There's a glass top, and you see about 6 fairly well-made daggers. He says, "Now, none of these are enchanted or magical, but you got a gold one here, pricey. Got a silver one here, also pricey, but not as pricey. You've got these 2 here, which are finely crafted steel, and this other one down here with a nice ruby on the hilt. Very pricey."
Yes, I see. Well, but, I do like the one with the ruby. That one does shine quite nicely, but,
1,000 gold. That'll be 1,000 gold. Yeah,
1,000 gold.
1,000 gold.
Well, dear sir, I'm sorry to say, but I'm not paying 1,000 gold for a dagger with a fake ruby in the hilt.
Oh, I can assure you, sir, this ruby is not fake.
And I can assure you, I've got a keen eye for gemstones, and that, sir, is a fake ruby. 500 gold.
Silver? Would you care for the silver? We can get that for a cool 75 gold.
Dear sir, you insult me. So, I will not pay more than 250 gold for that dagger with the fake ruby in the hilt.
Well, this is we can have this appraised if you would rather, but I will not be insulted.
Well, you happen to sell food here too.
Yeah, of course.
Well, that's a shame because you see, Belric reaches down into a hidden pocket in his pants leg and pulls out. You see this rat that I just found scurrying across your floor? I'll have to tell the health inspector what I found here.
Oh, no. Sure, certainly. Not the health inspector.
Well,
clearly. Okay. And anyway, probably
200 gold.
At this point, I'd probably have you roll for persuasion, potentially with advantage. But anyway, all right, good job. All right, so let's do Belric walking into an inn, a tavern, and he's going to talk to the barkeep. He's trying to get some information about a particular person, and we'll just say the person of interest's name is Seraphina. We'll say it's an elf, and she's got long blonde, kind of curly hair, beautiful, kind of has a green and brown outfit with kind of a brown cloak or tunic that she wears. And anyway, she's just known around town. So he's coming in, trying to find out a little bit of information, talking to this barkeep. So that's the setup. So walk to the door. Barkeep's like, anyway, barkeep's just there polishing up a mug.
Oi, keepy. I'll have that bottle right there.
There's a lot of bottles there, sir. Which
Top shelf?
All right, the top shelf. Oh, this one up here.
Yes.
This is only our finest fire wine right here. This one's a little pricey.
Belric pulls out a big ruby. Clink.
Well, I think that will do nicely. In fact, some change for you, sir.
Oh, no change, sir.
Huh.
I only need the change of information. Well, sir, you see, I am looking for an elvish lady of well-make, talk of the town, real nice draperies about her. Fair-skinned, golden locks, by the name of Seraphina.
Seraphina.
Yes.
What business of yours is it to find this Seraphina?
Well, you see, she also has information pertinent to, say, an investigation of mine.
Aha.
But...
Well, so I see you left this gem with change for this expensive bottle of wine, so I'm assuming I'm assuming you're leaving that a little bit as payment or something along those lines.
Yes, sir. I asked for information.
Aha.
Yes.
The Seraphina, if I did know her, maybe I'd be willing to get a message to her. What would it be worth? So I see you've left this gem. If I knew Seraphina, if I did, I'm not saying I did, but if I did know a Seraphina, I would think she probably enjoyed her privacy, as it were. So,
As all discerning patrons do, my sir.
so what kind of a deal is it that you propose?
I propose, since you seem to possibly be acquainted with this fine-crafted elven damsel, I would say that she could meet me here. In that booth, you see, with the dragonborn gentleman and the 3 dwarves.
Yes.
I believe they're talking about payment for shipment of ores, but no matter. If she could meet me in that booth, perhaps later this evening, I would say, for dinner service.
Yes, but what else do you propose in a form of payment?
I see, sir. But I have given you this gem. Is the change from the gem simply the cost of transferring the message?
As I said, if I knew Seraphina, I'm not saying I did, but if I did, she greatly enjoys her privacy. And I do believe for me to summon her would be a little more even than the value of your gem.
Yes. Well, tell her that... Belric pulls a letter out of his cloak. That this letter will find its way into the household of the town chanter, you know? The guy who goes, hear ye, about all the news and happenings. This letter from a particular gentleman Seraphina's been dealing with. You see this?
The name of this gentleman.
The name. Oh, sir. Can you not see the lovely script? I believe that this is a very intimate piece of information.
Then be here this evening at the dinner hour. So let's do Belric doing some roguey kind of stuff. So Belric was sent forward a lot to look for traps. He wasn't always happy about that, knowing that he was being placed in danger. So how might you role play that a little bit? So let's say there's some other characters up front, and they're talking about maybe a trap or something, and they want it checked out. How might Belric approach that?
Oh, so you're sending the short guy into the small hole. Okay, profiling again. Would you say that? Fine, I'll do it, but not because I want to, and not because you told me.
All right. Okay, so let's do Belric going up to... One of the party members goes up, and he's pulling on a locked door. So, right, it's always the rogue, or generally the rogue, going up to deal with the locked door. But the door's locked. They want to get through, you got the big, strong paladin up there. He's like, dunk, 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 dunk. The door's locked. What do you do? How does Belric approach this?
Move it, scale swords. Let the professional work. Yes, dwarven make, fine brass. Let's see, 3rd era craftsmanship. Oh, you cheeky little girl, let me get in there. And then he'd put his tools in, be whispering, maybe some grunting, firm movements. Maybe some swearing if it's a difficult lock, if he's not rolling well. But if he's rolling well... Here it is, another satisfied customer.
All right, so Belric's a rogue, and he eventually got up to 10th level, so he had quite a few ways of getting out of trouble, and we'll just kind of mention some of these up front. So we've got, of course, cunning action, which allows the rogue to do something like take an additional move or dash or disengage action as part of their bonus action, and that was something you used pretty well. There was also sneak attack, which, there are a number of different ways to do it, but generally as long as you have surprise or as long as they are engaged in combat with one of your allies, then you can get a sneak attack off. There's also uncanny dodge, and so if you are attacked by a weapon attack that you can see, then you generally can reduce that damage by half. And then there's also evasion, so if you're hit by an area effect, then depending upon the savings throw, you can also reduce that damage. So a whole lot of ways to reduce damage, and then also a halfling. So he had the halfling lucky trait. So if you roll a 1, you got to re-roll the dice. Or also had halfling nimbleness. So it had the ability to move in and through the space of enemies who are at least one size larger. So anyway, it's a whole lot of things right there. But the campaign, I think, where Belric really came through and shined, we played against the giants. And so playing against these larger, bigger creatures, Belric's got all of these capabilities. So you did a great job role-playing a lot of the attacks or just giving vivid descriptions for how these would work in combat. So Belric has a rapier. It's kind of his favorite weapon to use in melee combat. So describe how some of these attacks might work, especially on a giant.
So if Belric were to be attacking a giant, he would most likely attack an enemy engaged with a friendly, so he'd get the sneak attack. He would engage, he would dart between the giant's leg and take a gash right at the Achilles, right at the leg. Or try to get him right in the sweet meat of the leg, really disable them. Right. He would slide between the legs, do a power slide, and then he would use his cunning action to then disengage, so to move, dash out of the giant's space. So it was constant strafing runs of those.
And you had some great lines that you would say, usually as you were coming in and doing an attack. He was usually talking trash all along the way, which is great. So what would be some of his trash talking as he's coming in and stabbing giants down low, or maybe up in the nether regions or something like that?
So Belric would power slide between the giant's legs, take his rapier, slash at the giant's nethers. Take that, the giblets, you giant lout! Think you can pick on us smalls? Well, you fight just as bad as you smell, bastard!
Almost like a bard with the cutting words. Too bad he didn't get to do any damage or anything with his actual words.
How's it feel to get picked on somebody below your own size?
Nice. Yeah, he had a lot of great lines in combat, so kind of antagonizing, almost like a bard, a little bit like cutting words, although, not quite the same, but just funny nevertheless and fun for everybody else.
Looks like you're not reproducing. It's not like you were getting any action with that face anyways.
Oh my gosh. So Belric was also known to have a little bit of a foul mouth. We're not going to get into all that right here, but that definitely came alive at the table. Always kind of looking for the insult to add insult to injury. Okay, so there was one kind of, I guess, a famous or infamous story within our group for one of the things that happened to Belric. So as I believe we were in the Hall of the Fire Giant King, and he slipped away. There was this kind of secret passage that he found behind the throne room, and Belric took off to go down there and see what kind of treasures or things that he could find. And there were a series of things that happened. First, he came across this whole group of chests. And then, as he was exploring one of the chambers, a creature snuck up on him. Do you remember what that creature was?
It was a hydra.
A hydra. Totally, completely surprised you, cornered you, just kind of had you completely and totally pegged in. Now, Belric, in a previous campaign, based on a random treasure table that was rolled up, he acquired a luck blade, and the DM let it stand. So he had this rapier, a luck blade with 3 wishes. So Belric is absolutely cornered. The other members of the party don't know what's going on. They're in the other room. They don't know that he's facing a hydra alone. So do you remember a little bit about how that went?
Yeah, I think it went something like this. Well, Belric, looks like you've bitten off way more than you can chew this time, lad. It's way more gold than you could even dream to carry. And it looks like Fiona knows you're here. Alright, time to do something desperate. I wish for you to die! And Belric takes his luck blade and points it at the hydra. And from the luck blade would spring a bright flash of light, and it would singe. I forget how much damage it did, but I think the hydra had 3 heads at this time, and he singed off 1.5 of the heads.
Right. So, and I don't remember exactly what the spells were. We'll just say for we made you pick a spell. They were true wishes. You could pick 9th level spells all the way up there. So we were using like power word kill or different things like that. But I think you had to use 2 of the uses of the luck blade to fully escape and to end the combat, because this thing was absolutely about to end you.
Right, you didn't let me finish. So the first hit burned 1.5 of the heads. The second head was looking really crispy. So then Belric said, "I didn't think you heard me. I wish for you to die." And finally, final blast of light springs from the blade. The second gem on the hilt cracks, and the Hydra's heads are blown off. And I don't remember. Yeah. He blew the heads off of the Hydra using 2 wishes.
Right. Used 2 full wishes. We didn't allow for the wish to be, "I wish for you to die." We actually, as a DM, I was a DM at the time, so as a DM, I ruled that you were actually going to have to use spells to make that happen. We weren't quite going, that route for the wish. So then the spoils of war. Right after that, there was a room with like a dozen chests or something like that. A bunch of these were trapped. Several were filled with nothing. Several were filled with, different magic items, gold, gems, etc. But Belric, again, was by himself, and he had just been brought down a whole bunch of hit points fighting this Hydra. So do you remember going through that room?
Yeah, it was like almost an hour of lockpicking, I think.
Lockpicking, opening chests.
Rolling loot.
You got attacked by some things. You got hit by various...
I don't even remember all the things.
Hit by various damage traps. Anyway, I remember you limping out of there just with nothing but pockets full of gold, really, and a story, right? You remember this?
Do you remember the traps that zipped me?
No, I don't. I don't actually remember them specifically. There were some good ones. But what I do remember is that the rest of the party was there through the Hydra fight. So they were just, we're doing this on Zoom, and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, that's it, that's Belric," So they role-played this well. They didn't say, "Oh, well, we go dashing through the secret door and down to Belric," because they couldn't hear, they couldn't see, they didn't know what was going on, and you were going ahead to scout. So they didn't actually know. They're staying in character. They didn't know that you were fighting this Hydra.
I hope they didn't get too bored waiting for all this to
No,
transpire.
it was amazingly entertaining, and the party still talks about it to this day. You remember Belric using his luck blade to get out of that fight with the Hydra? And then the other part that they didn't see, because a lot of people then, it was the end of the session, they logged off. So I stayed on with you, and we went through and we did the chests, and you just did all the unlocks.
Right.
Well, anyway... So when they came back the next session, you got to fill them in that you are basically, here comes Belric dragging out of this secret door with just a couple of hit points left and all this gold, treasures, some magic items, and this story. Anyway.
And that's probably one of my best Dungeons & Dragons moments right there, because Belric played it like, "Yep, I killed that thing. Just me. This is all my treasure. You guys get the scraps."
Right.
Because I killed the Hydra.
Right.
Belric the Penniless Hydra Slayer.
You shared, though. You shared, right?
Right. I shared, of course. Well, he can't carry it all. He's a short dude.
Right.
I think he had a bag of holding, but even then it started to reject some of it.
So Belric had the luck blade, which really is what got him out of there. But even as a higher level character at this point, probably level 8 or level 9, Belric, he's got uncanny dodge, evasion, he's got cunning action, and even with all those things, is still reducing the damage, but being cornered by this big beast, that was going to be the end of Belric. Rogues are great in a party, and you're able to maneuver and get in and attack and get out, get in and do your sneak attack and get that extra damage. I guess the other thing that was going on here is you didn't have surprise, it had surprise on you. It wasn't engaged with any enemy. There was no sneak attack damage. There was no extra damage that you were able to land on this thing. So anyway, things got a little dicey for old Belric.
Right. I was prepared to use that whole luck blade to get me out of that situation.
Yeah, you made it away with one wish left on the luck blade.
To this day, I still have one wish. Belric still has one wish left.
Right.
Belric to this day runs a very successful tavern and brothel with excellent connections to the Thieves Guild. It is a local house of commerce and debauchery, and he is now Belric the Penniful.
Maybe we could say he is now Belric the Well-Heeled, Belric the Well-Funded, no longer Belric the Penniless, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Belric Penny.
There you go. Nicely done. All right. So we hope you were able to get some good ideas out of that. Maybe what you could do with a pre-rolled character, or how you might play or role play a rogue, or even coming in cold as a brand new character, being handed a pre-rolled character and figuring out what you can do with it. I think, Wyatt, just a minute ago, you said any character can be a...
Any character can be a good character. Even a pre-roll.
That's right. So we hope you're able to get something out of this episode, thinking about being a brand new player, getting a pre-rolled character, or even playing or role-playing a rogue. Thank you so much, Wyatt, for joining us today and sharing your experience.
Of course. It was a pleasure.
All right. Come back soon.
Of course. I live upstairs.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Art of Character. If you've made it this far, consider liking, commenting, or subscribing, or click below and join our Patreon or our Discord. You can also click below and get something from our merch store. Until next time.